machines to their limits. Much has changed in the world in 100 years, but those who make today's sophisticated high-tech racing rockets are about to take that same challenge. Go as fast as you can around the most famous race course in the world.
The Indianapolis 500 is timeless. A win here isn't merely a victory, it's history. It isn't about what you've done before. This is qualifying. It's all about the here and now, where the present isn't measured in minutes or even seconds, but rather in splinters of seconds. Every turn, every straight, every inch of every lap matters. One bobble, one slip, one failure to focus, and the tiniest here and now can forever alter one's future. Hit every mark, no matter how small, and history is one step, one lap closer, becoming timeless. That is the ultimate Indy dream. But first, today, one must try to outrun time.
A million miles an hour is probably what it feels like. In reality, it's, 230 miles an hour or so, just 230. As we welcome you to the Indianapolis Motor Speedway on qualification weekend. 2 days of action that will determine which 33 drivers will compete in the Indianapolis 500 and which drivers will have those coveted front row starting spots. Been fighting a little bit of weather as we've gotten ready to start qualifications. We're scheduled to have the first car green flagged about 11 a.m. Eastern time. Now about 90 minutes later, you see that the weather radar has been peppering us here and there. A big blob that was just to the west of us kind of broke up as it approached the speedway. So thankfully the racing surface is dry now and we'll get going. But between now and the scheduled end of qualifications at 5:50 Eastern time, you can see from the lower left of that radar there may be a little more of Mother Nature we may have to wrestle just yet. And hello from inside the famed pagoda at the Speedway. Alan Bestwick joined by two men who know what it's like to go 230 miles an hour around this place, Eddie Cheever and Scott Goodyear. Qualification day for a driver. What's this day like?
It's pressured packed. As magical as this place is, it can also be cruel to you because it's so emotional. To get to the Indy 500, you need to qualify. With the new qualifying system that we have here now, you have to go out and do it a couple of times to get yourself into the field. So the emotions of being in the field are followed up with, I've got to go back and do it again. So it's high and low, and you put everything on the line here to make the car go as fast as you can. And the key thing here is that the engineers give you everything, but by the time you climb in the cockpit, it's up to you to get the job done. That's pressure on the driver.
And a lot of pressure. I've been on the front row and I've been on the back row, and I can tell you being on the back, it's more difficult because your car is not working. And everybody looks in the car and they kind of say, well, it's up to you. It's not just up to you. You have to have a machine that's underneath you. And these cars this year are tricky. They're new, they have different bodywork, so the word that I keep hearing is there's a lot of hesitancy. How far do I push the envelope? So with this new rule that they have, they will be doing it day by day, session by session. So when we get to those fast 9, they're going to be right on the limit.
How tricky it is to try and trim the car out and run in qualifying mode here at the Speedway, visibly demonstrated over a couple of days of practice during the week. This week, Helio Castroneves on Wednesday, Joseph Newgarden on Thursday, both having some pretty spectacular incidents.
And when these things happen, Alan, you don't know it. All you do is you start to feel something going odd with the car, and the car comes around so quickly, you become a passenger. You hope that the hit's not going to be too bad, but it's not very often that we see cars go in the air like we did with Helio Castroneves. And right here, Joseph Newgarden, the same type of accident, not into the air, but sliding on his roll hoop, which is very disturbing, Eddie, because as drivers, we don't really feel that we're ever going to crash, but when it happens, we're out of control.
I like that. I like that analogy. I will tell you one thing. They've tested these cars a lot going straight. They've tested these cars a lot in the wind tunnels sliding, but they haven't tested these cars going backwards. And they are not meant to do what Castroneves' car did. So I think that has to be sitting in the back of the mind of all the race car drivers. It's never good when you spin, but they do have safer walls. But this tendency for the back of the car to lift up, is a problem. And it's a problem, it's one of the many problems the drivers are going to have to sort out in their head, because it's a lot of soul-searching time when you're sitting in the car and there's nobody else on the track, and you've got to find a way to put your fastest 4 laps of the month in.
So very interesting next few hours coming up here at Indianapolis. A lot going down at the head end of the qualifying line. That's where Jan Beekes is standing by for us. Jan?
There is, and when Eddie was talking about the fact that they have not tested these cars in a sideways condition or running backwards, they have made some changes since. There have been computer simulations done. This, of course, is Ryan Hunter-Reay, the Honda Aero Kit, and you'll notice it has what they call a center line wicker. This center line wicker is something that is to help the car be stable if it was to get sideways. Now, take note of this. We're going to walk back to Scott Dixon, which of course would be a Chevy Aero package, and that's going to be a slight change. They have done computer simulations, and they believe, in the case of Chevrolet, that when Castroneves got sideways, they felt that that same wicker put more pressure on the front, kind of pinned the front, as we said, and they have asked IndyCar, we think in the computer simulations that wasn't the cause, but it didn't help matters. So no centerline wicker for Chevrolets. This is an antenna, as well as this. That is the only change that's been mandated by IndyCar. However, both Honda, Chevrolet, and IndyCar and Dallara are using all their computer capability and running overnight tests to use computer simulations to be sure there isn't anything else they can do come race time to keep these cars on the ground.
All right, Jan, thanks. So a lot of very interesting conversation, a lot of consternation, and a lot of high-powered computing work being done by the engineers to get ready for this qualification day. Helio Castroneves trying to win a pole en route to perhaps a 4th Indianapolis 500-mile race win. Dr. Jerry Punch is standing by with Helio.
Hey, thank you, Alan. And no active driver has won any more poles than this guy. 4 times trying to go for the 5th, and obviously one of the favorites. Let's just take a talk about the big picture first. Of all the things you're asked to do in an Indy car, where does this day rank in terms of degree of difficulty? Going out to run 4 laps here, wide open for the pole at Indy.
You know, the interesting thing is there is levels of, extreme from 1 to 10. I don't think this day categorized, in this position, because it's so stressful, not only for the driver teams, but everyone, because Rick Mears always says, there are 2 kind of races, the Indy 500 and actually the qualifying. I mean, you want to be the #1 guy to start on the front, and in the end of the day, you're going to do everything you can to have the best equipment there to make it happen. So at this point, it is extremely stressful. So we're playing with the weather a little bit. We're not sure what's going to happen, but we're going to see, and especially with this new format, which I believe everybody already explained. So you got to play a little game in these conditions, but hopefully we're going to be in good shape.
Hey, good luck in qualifying.
Thank you very much.
This morning, Elio went out and turned the quickest lap of the month, 2:33.5, and he will hope to keep that speed up and be on the pole. But the guy's been on the pole the last couple of years, standing by with Rick.
Ed Carpenter has the opportunity to achieve something no one else has ever done here at the Indy 500, and that's win 3 consecutive poles. He already has 2. Today, he would be working for that 3rd. Now, having talked with you yesterday, you didn't sound too optimistic about pulling that off. How do you feel after the morning warm-up?
I still think we're on the outside looking in a little bit. It's really not we're talking about pole till tomorrow. You got to make it into the top 9 by the end of today. So that's a goal for today, is to try to get not my car but all 3 of our cars into the top 9. And if that happens, then you can look at what it's going to take to get a pole. But right now we just want to try to get in the top 9.
Now, J.R. Hildebrand in a team car this morning was 2nd fastest. That at least had to give you some optimism.
Yeah, his car's been strong all month. I think he's been our fastest car all month. Our balance is just a little bit different than his, even when we were running the same thing. So just kind of chasing the difference in the cars. But I think, like I told you yesterday, I think the speed's there when we get it figured out. So my hope is that we can be good enough to get into the top 9 today, have another night to work on it, and see what tomorrow brings. But the focus for today is 3 cars in the top 9.
All right, once again, Ed Carpenter going for history. Obviously, we know he knows how to race very well and qualify very well here at the Indy 500.
Rick, thanks. A couple of references to the qualification procedures. So we'll look at what goes on today. Everyone is guaranteed at least 1 4-lap attempt. And then if everyone gets a turn through the line, once there's a break in the line, if you will, people can make multiple attempts. The fastest 30 lock in their place in the 500 field. You don't want to be below 30th. You have to run again tomorrow to try and not be the one that gets bumped. 34 cars here for 33 starting spots. And then the fast 9 get into the Fast 9 shootout on Sunday afternoon to try and grab those coveted front row starting spots. And there are championship points as well for the season-long Verizon IndyCar Series title at stake to be paid out today and tomorrow. So first car to hit the track, the order set by random draw that was held yesterday after the conclusion of the Fast Friday practice sends Carlos Huertas onto the racetrack. Carlos in his second Indianapolis 500, the 23-year-old from Bogota, Colombia. Came here a year ago, qualified 21st fastest, finished on the lead lap in 17th place, and of course a winner last year in the Verizon IndyCar Series in one of the twin races down in Houston.
And you know, Alan, even though you've been here once and you're no longer a rookie, this does not get any easier. The second, third, fourth, or Eddie, you and I have been here multiple times, you know, whether you've been here 10, 15 times. It is the most difficult 4 laps, as everybody says around here. So as you're now warming up, you get past the start and finish line as Carlos is coming along now through turn 1. His goal next time around, once he crosses the yard of bricks, is to keep his foot flat on the gas going in through turn 1 and all through the remainder of those 4 laps, tuning his car just a little bit with the cockpit adjustments that he has inside. But difficult to say the least, absolutely.
This is definitely one of those places where the driver just has to be calm and collective and just forget about what he's trying to do, because if you fail, if you have an accident, you stand a good chance of not making the 500, but you can't exactly slow down to make it safe. So you just have to run the car as fast as it will go, forget about everything, do your 4 laps, try to turn the steering wheel the least amount possible, and just go through the whole process.
And if you look here at the telemetry underneath the throttle, you saw him just breathe the throttle a little bit in the first turn, a little bit more in the second, and what happens with that is you're costing yourself speed. Look at the miles per hour here, 232 miles an hour. Trying not to let off on the gas going through the turn. And you and I have done this multiple times, and you're convincing your right foot that you don't need to take your foot off the pedal.
No, your right foot grows a brain, and it says, I'm going to hit the wall first, so I don't care what you say. I'm coming off if I'm not comfortable. It is very difficult. Nobody is out there, but you're all by yourself. It's the only time in the whole month that you're not with somebody else on the track. So it's all about just the maximum performance that you can run. There's Dale Coyne, who does a wonderful job of running his cars. Have been very successful in the street courses.
The little team that could. A master strategist and finding a way to put his cars in position to try and win.
And when they did last year at Houston with Carlos at the street course, the Houston Grand Prix, popular victory.
But there is the comparison between this racetrack and the Houston Grand Prix is like Earth and Mars. This place is full throttle the whole way around. Pure speed.
The traditional 4-lap qualifying format here in Indianapolis, so drivers have to complete 4 laps. The average of those 4 laps, where speed is concerned, will be the time of record on the day. Now, an interesting thing, when you looked at last year's field, last year the difference between first and 33rd was the tightest field in Indianapolis 500 history a year ago at the end of qualifications. Well, in practice earlier today, the difference between final practice times last year and final practice times this year, it was even closer this year. So we are going to be in for a fractions of a second and fractions of a mile an hour day to see who makes that top 30 and that Fast 9.
And Alan, when you're talking about the fractions of a second, those little lifts that we saw when we were watching the throttle trace and telemetry, that's those fractions of a second that add up over 4 laps. And Eddie, you know this, when you finished it and you go across the line and they tell you your average time for 4 laps, you know as a driver exactly where you left a little bit of speed on the table.
Oh, yes, you do. But it's not only the throttle, it's also that little bit of extra steering or trying to hold the car down when the car wants to go up. There's all these little things that multiply themselves.
So the checkered flag, and here you see the 4-lap average for Carlos Huertas of 228.235. Now we expect Fast 9, that average to be in the 230s when we get done. And again, the real object for this today if you don't have enough speed to be in the Fast 9, make sure you're better than 30th.
Get in the show. You can get in the show and you have another crack at it later. But the worst thing that can happen to one of these drivers, if they're only capable of doing a 228, is trying to get that 229, taking a little bit too much wing out, car getting loose, turning into one, as we saw happen in practice. It's just not worth it.
Well, remember a year ago at the conclusion of the Indianapolis 500, the absolutely stirring, thrilling fight for the win between Ryan Hunter-Reay, Helio Castroneves, and Marco Andretti. A red flag set up a late shootout in the event, and watch what turned out to be the winning move by Hunter-Reay, almost clipping the grass as he got to the inside of Castroneves down to turn 3.
That was one of those moves where you went from being, if you go too far in the grass, you're going to look like a dummy because you'll take half the field out, or win the Indianapolis 500. It was so good as an American race car driver to see an American win it again.
We talked with Hunter-Reay here in the garage area a couple of days ago, and obviously when you come back to Indianapolis, Eddie, you know this well, as a former winner, you get a lot of attention when you come back in. And talked to Ryan about what he remembered most about a year ago, and he said, turning into victory lane, seeing my teammates and my wife and my son there. He said, I will never forget that feeling of what that was like to share that moment with them.
I remember watching it here from the booth. It was definitely stirring, and when we talked to him, he still had that emotional rawness at it being a new thing in his life. He's still trying to understand all of it. He's a great champion. He's very consistent, and every lap he does here, he's working towards his second victory, but I don't think he has quite the equipment that he needs right now to be running for the top 9.
Well, it was also watching his telemetry, 234, 235. I think I heard him get on the rev limiter, maybe in 5th. Maybe he needs 6th gear going into turn 3 there. Something you will watch and see. The engineers will tell you exactly what gear you need to be in. Maybe the wind's a little different at both ends of the race course.
The wind is now pushing you into turn 3. That's probably why he was on the rev limiter.
So you want to click onto 6th gear here with a paddle shifter, something he probably knows that cost him speed on that lap. Let's watch the speed, just flirting with 236 miles an hour.
Still has a little bit of room left in the track. Not a lot.
I'm sure he'll appreciate you saying that. Easier to say when we're up here than sitting in the seat.
When you're in your car, for some reason, you can put it within 4 inches and you feel like you have a lot of room. But
flaring up to the wall in the entrance to 1, really nice.
Very consistent.
Eddie, you talked about Hunter-Reay maybe not having the pace we've seen in practice. Remember, he started 19th a year ago. So qualifying trim and race trim can be two totally different things. And the big mystery is with the new aero kits this year, where engine suppliers, Chevrolet and Honda, now are allowed to put their own styling and performance touches on the body of the Dallara chassis. The question becomes, who's got the speed for qualifying, and then who's got the speed in race trim for the 500?
And who has the ability to run up the gearbox of another car in the race? It is very difficult to do what he's doing right now by himself, but if you put 5 cars in front of him, the car will react totally different because of all the aerodynamic turbulence. So we're not sure which body kit is better in those conditions. Is it the Chevy or is it the Honda?
Downstairs to Jan.
One of the things you want to keep an eye on for Ryan Hunter-Reay and how hard he might be pushing, these are ideal conditions. The track temperature right now, 82 degrees. Yesterday, late in the day, it got hot and there were a lot of unhappy drivers. So if someone pushes hard now, later in the day, these are ideal conditions that might play for the Fast 9.
And the numbers on Ryan Hunter-Reay dipping just below 230 miles an hour for the 4-lap average. 229.845 for the defending Indianapolis 500-mile race winner.
I would say that's a little bit disappointing to drop off that much on those 4 laps.
And another winner of the 500 in years past, taking to the track now. Scott Dixon, the 2008 winner, begins his warm-up laps while we check with Rick DeBrule.
Standing by with Carlos Huertas, who had the privilege and honor of being the first qualifier for the Indy 500 today. We've talked with a lot of drivers who've talked about how difficult it is to maintain speed between lap 1 and lap 4. What was it like today? Were you able to maintain that speed at all? Did it drop off? Did you feel?
It was okay. I think yesterday was okay as well, but You obviously are a bit cautious because it's the first run. You don't want to do anything stupid, so I think it was okay.
All right, this is your second Indy 500. Do you have an appreciation? Have you figured this place out yet?
Kind of. I think on my own I can run pretty well. In traffic sometimes I struggle a lot with the car. And the timing of what you have to do, so that's a bit tricky, but every day I learn a lot.
Good. All right, once again, Carlos Huertas, qualifier number 1 here for the Indy 500. Alan?
All right, Rick, thanks. So watching Scott Dixon, who has had some pretty good speed in race trim and as well in the Fast Friday practices we saw yesterday.
Hasn't been the fastest car, but he's been right up there. And as a competitor, when Dixon gets within range, he's dangerous. And it seems that they're very well prepared for this Indy 500.
You see on the right, there's a team representative in a signaling area that has to signal the green flag for the starter to wave the green flag and officially begin the qualifying attempt. Just as in the past here at Indianapolis, an attempt can be abandoned and waved off, but the rule is that that team representative does have to signal, yes, we are beginning our, we're going to take this run.
I think that's one of those rules that's in place just because it's always been in place.
You see Scott's wife, Emma, on the right-hand side. She knows how tough this is on drivers. Did you see the speed? Top speed 237 going into turn 3. Let's see what it is in turn 1. 234, and that's because you have a headwind going into turn 1, so it'll slow the car down just a little bit.
And as Dixon flashes down the backstretch, we flash downstairs to Jan.
And talk about flashing, he is using, that is Scott Dixon, what they're terming the low drag side pods right in front of the rear wheels. You can see it's very smooth there. They have 2 choices for the Chevrolet Aero package, but with this weather, and I see a flashing light, and we've got some raindrops. Yep. Yeah, good run for Dixon. Now gets aborted for weather.
Rain falling, and of course this massive speedway, it can be raining on one part of the track and not the other, but fortunate that the caution was called quickly and Scott was able to slow down before some significant moisture got on the racetrack with those treadless slick racing tires. It doesn't take much.
I cannot think of anything worse than turning into turn 1 and there's water where there wasn't water a lap before.
I've actually had that in practice here in testing, and we knew the rain was coming. End of the day, trying to get some things accomplished in testing, and we were out there for a final run, and they said, well, just keep an eye on the weather. It came around 4, and they said, get off it, get off it, get off it. And by the time I slowed down, got to 1, the track was wet.
So you see the moisture on the camera lens and the yellow flag out, abandoning Scott Dixon's qualifying attempt because of rain here at the Speedway. Ryan Hunter-Ray was able to complete his, and he's with Dr. Jerry Punch.
Yeah, just reminiscing, a year ago he and I were standing together. He was sipping the milk and celebrating, and today you climb out of the car with a bit of a smile. In terms of expectations, how pleased are you with what the number you just put up, just a shade under 230?
Yeah, it was a little bit conservative, and we ended up hitting the rev limiter on the back. We kind of stuck to a gear we wanted and just ran right into the hard limiter, so that killed our speed quite a bit. But I think it was a good first run, you know, to get in the books, and it's been a bit difficult this week trying to get a handle on the car, but, you know, as a team, Andretti Autosport's doing a great job. We're just working at it steadily, making progress, and we'll see how it goes in qualifying here. Certainly Dixon was really quick, but we expected them to be a pace setter.
We could hear the rev limiter with the tailwind going into 3 there, and we heard you say you shifted to 6th gear. How much do you think you left on the table given you had that first lap into 3 with the limiter?
Yeah, most folks probably think at home, well, why didn't you just shift up? You know, that's such an easy thing to do, but you're looking for such small amounts of speed around here that even a shift, just the shift cut, can put you back 3 or 4 positions. And even more, and a hard limiter can do even more than that. So it's very, very small details here. And when you commit to a gear, we kind of go with it. But this happens. It was our first run, and you know, we learned from it, and now we go from there for the next run. So it's looking like if it rains out today, they might reset it and just start all over again tomorrow. We'll see how it goes. But it's certainly great being in Indianapolis. You know, at this speedway, whether it's rain or shine, I'm a happy camper.
How many times have you walked back over to Victory Lane and looked at where you stood and you told everybody watching around the world, I'm a proud American boy, when you climbed out of that car a year ago?
Absolutely. You know, a career-long, lifelong dream come true. A lot of hard work and determination to get there, and a great support team along the way. From everybody from Andretti Autosport to my first days in karting, my parents, everything. Along the way, it's been an amazing journey, and being Indy 500 champion has been a wild ride. It's been amazing since the checkered flag fell. It's been remarkable. It's been awesome. So hopefully I'll have another shot at doing it, but one step at a time, one page at a time here, and we're getting ready to face a new challenge.
Hey, thanks a lot for your time.
All right, thank you.
Ryan Hunter-Reay, defending Indy 500 winner. Let's go down to Richter Brule.
Yeah, standing by with Tony Kanaan, who was anxious to go out and qualify, no doubt. Now we're sitting here getting rained on. Let's talk about the fact that there's so many adjustments and so many possible changes with these cars this year. And have you got it figured out?
That's the $1,000 question today, or
only 1,000,
or $1 million question, or 100,000, which is for the poll. But I think we got an idea. But this is what's cool about Indy, right? So two guys qualifying, two guys qualifying. Now it rains. Maybe when we come back, when it's dry, conditions will be totally different. It could be a lot faster, or it could be a lot slower. So we might have a surprise right away today with that. But I think we got a pretty good car, and Scott was running extremely fast when they throw the yellow, so we're okay.
Now, as a driver, how hard is it to get yourself all geared up? You were all set to go out there and start qualifying, and now we got rain, and who knows if we'll even go back out today.
Like after 14 years, I'm okay. But I can't control the weather, so I can't stress about that. I think Sage, my 19-year-old teammate, you should go talk to him. He's wound up. I mean, me, we're just waiting for it. I feel bad for the fans that are here. The guys are watching on TV, but I'm okay. I'm okay with waiting. I'm patient.
Besides, he's already got that Indy 500 ring. That's what really matters. Jan?
Out at Indy, that timing is everything, and unfortunately for Scott Dixon today, that timing was just a couple of laps off. How'd the car feel before the sprinkles?
Yeah, it felt pretty good. I think obviously the conditions are changing quite quickly here, and it's a shame. You want to get it through, but then it doesn't really matter if you get your run in and none of the rest of the line does. So hopefully the rain is going to blow through here. It looks like it's going to be maybe on and off a little bit throughout the day. But the target car I think is definitely fast. Today is trying to get through the fast 9, but who knows with how the weather's going to be in the next few days if those times will actually be what you get. You just get one run.
If this is brief and you get to go back on track quickly, have you learned something here where you could tweak a little bit and improve your speed?
I don't think you can, I'd have to check with the team, but I'm not sure how much of the car you can actually change. I think it's just tires and fuel in that situation. We'd probably make a couple of tweaks here and there, but I don't want to tell anybody because other people listening. But it felt pretty good, and obviously today is a lot better conditions than what it was yesterday, so I think you're going to see some pretty big times.
Yesterday you had some smoking fast laps, but only one on occasion. Is it a case where you were too light on downforce and was hard to hang on to?
The first one was going to be a really good run. We did 2 laps, but then the caution came out, so that scrubbed that one. Our second attempt, we just went way too aggressive, man, on trimming the thing out, and it was definitely a bit of a handful, and then we lost the day. We kind of just waited towards the end, and when we wanted to run later in the day, there was just too many cars on track, and you can compromise your whole effort, if you get mixed up on that stuff. So, we'll try and make the right decisions here and see what we can get.
Thank you, Scott.
Thanks, man.
Yes, and making the right decision certainly key. And you know why they call him the Iceman? After getting that run aborted, he was very on top of what might or might not happen. Alan?
All right, John, thanks. And by rule, the front and rear wing angle and air pressure are basically what you're allowed to change. The traditional photo post-qualifying by the Yard of Bricks. A nice Hunter-Reay family photo there, son riding. That you saw around the Yard of Bricks in that identical fire suit to Dad's a year ago. Wife Becky and new son Roxon, who has joined the family portrait. A winner at Indianapolis. Ryan Hunter-Reay knows what it feels like.
There's definitely a certain feeling and an energy when you come into this racetrack. It's the Super Bowl, the World Series, the Masters all in one. This is the one race of the year you want to win. This is the one race of your career that you want to win. I think if you asked anybody that had multiple championships but no Indy 500s, they'd trade their championships for a 500 win any day.
That's why people get frustrated sometimes that they're not able to succeed. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's a bad driver. It just, it's not up to you to decide. It's up to the track.
My grandfather said it best. He said, I once said that I hated this place, and then he paused for a long time, and then he said, I lied. I love it.
From the dock This June, X Games returns to Austin, Texas. Get ready for all the speed, air, and action you can handle. And for the first time ever, we introduce Harley-Davidson flat track racing. Don't say we didn't warn you. X Games Austin, June 4th through 7th.
And if you win, you'll leave as a legend.
Hunter Ray almost clips the grass.
He did it. What a gutsy move.
3 to go. What a pass. Castroneves the leader. Ryan Hunter Ray to the outside of checkered flag. Ryan Hunter Ray wins the Indianapolis 500. Just 8 days away from the 99th running of the greatest spectacle in racing. Now it's a spectacle right now, but not the kind we're looking for. You can see raining very, very heavily here at the Speedway. Crews, fans taking cover, cars covered up. And it's going to be a little bit to dry this massive Speedway before we can resume with 500 qualifications. Down to Rick DeBrule.
Yeah, with Graham Rahal kind enough to stand by. You were checking the weather map just a moment ago. What's your forecast?
Doesn't look good, you know. It's a shame, you know, you get in the car, you're all ready to go, you're ready to do this thing, and then all of a sudden it starts doing this. But, you know, it's the same for everybody, just going to have to wait it out. You know, I thought our Steak and Shake car was pretty quick this morning, so I just wanted to get out there and get one in. Just going to have to see how the conditions are here.
Now, yesterday, listening to you on the radio, you didn't sound really optimistic about it. Big changes and enough changes to make it, you know, possible to get into that Fast 9?
Yeah, but I mean, you know, you see the difference in today versus yesterday is the weather. And, you know, it's a lot cooler. Even with the rain, it was a lot cooler before. So Hunter Ray had pretty optimum conditions there. It's cooling off a little bit right before the rain came. And, you know, it was dry and cloudy. You know, that's pretty fast. So we'll be okay. I don't know that we can do a 2:31 like Dixon did there. We're going to just have to see.
All right, how comfortable is this car going to be to race? Once you get out of the qualifying trim, go back to that setup you were running on Thursday.
It's pretty good in race trim. I'm pretty pleased with the race trim. I think the biggest thing is passing. It's going to be, you know, a challenge, I think, for the Hondas. Chevy seems to pull up and tow up really well and be able to pass pretty easy. But, you know, I think the race trim is very comfortable, and you know as well as I do, 500 miles is a long time around here.
All right, once again, Graham Rahal trying to stay dry. He's going to head inside. Doc?
And let's check in with J.R. Hildebrand. And last time we talked a year ago, you had just had another top 10 finish in the Indy 500. This team didn't exist a few weeks ago as this whole organization came together. This morning you went out and ran almost 233 miles an hour. How does that happen with a team that's been put together very, very quickly?
Yeah, I mean, you know, I feel like as the one-off entries, you know, obviously we did the GP, so sort of two-off during the year. You know, this group of guys and the transparency that we have with Ed and Joseph makes it feel like a full-time entry. I think the car prep is such a huge piece of going fast here and being able to compete at a high level during the month of May. And you know, I got a bunch of veteran guys, a lot of guys that I've worked with before on my squad. So it's really great. You know, it makes you feel like I've been a part of the group for the whole time. And you know, we obviously posted some speed this morning with a little bit of a tow, but the cars are feeling good, and we feel like we got some speed in it.
I mean, you've come close to winning this thing before in 2011, Rookie of the Year, finishing second. We all know how that one ended. But as a one-off team coming in here, a lot of people are saying don't overlook you guys because you could be a factor next Sunday to win the Indy 500. Are you confident that could happen?
I think that, you know, all things being equal, we've definitely got a shot at it. I mean, last year our cars were just bad fast in the race, and we bring a lot of that same stuff, a lot of the same crew, a lot of the same people back from doing it as a one-off last year. You know, I felt like that was the best race car that I've ever had around this place by a long shot. You know, like if we had been up in the front at the end of the race, we would have had a good shot at it. So, you know, it's a little bit different this year with the aero kits and some things being a little bit more sensitive. You know, the weather's obviously a little dodgy here, but I definitely feel like we got a shot, and we're playing our cards right so far.
We'll look forward to you in qualified.
Thanks, man.
Let's check back to Alan.
All right, Doc. Well, as you can see, it is raining quite heavily here at the Speedway. And peak, let's see, I've got 3 different weather radars going up here in front of me. 2 different iPads going, plus the one that we have that we'll show you on television. And you see there's a pretty good chunk of it still to our southwest and moving to the northeast. Now, I'm no meteorologist, but common sense would seem to say it's going to be a little bit before we get this going again.
I would agree with you. And all you got to do is look out the window. Everybody's running for cover.
So, while we are in this rain delay, quick moment to remind you that later today, when qualifying resumes, we'll continue here on Watch ESPN, but later today we're on ABC from 4 to 6 Eastern Time. And then tomorrow we start with our poll day coverage at 10 a.m. Eastern Time here on Watch ESPN and conclude the day on ABC with the Fast 9 Run for the Pole from 1 to 3 Eastern Time on Sunday afternoon. And then the following week, of course, the Indianapolis 500, our telecast presented by Firestone. Pre-race beginning at 11 a.m. on May the 24th. Some spectacular things lined up for you for the pre-race, and of course all the pageantry, the driver introductions, back home in Indiana, the balloons, and the command to start engines, and then the great 500-mile race that has been so thrilling these last few years, and we expect nothing less in this year's 99th running of the Indianapolis 500. So, while we're in a holding pattern here at the Speedway, we can't thank you enough for joining us here on Watch ESPN for our coverage. Stand by and continue to monitor here. Monitor us on the old Twitter feed, too. When they resume action on the track, we'll resume coverage right here. And, of course, no matter what, we'll be on ABC at 4 Eastern Time this afternoon to recap and update and cover live whatever's going on here at the Speedway. So, for now, for our hardworking and mostly drenched ESPN IndyCar team, Alan Bestwick saying thanks for joining us, and stay tuned right here. We'll be back in just a little bit as soon as the cars are ready to fire up onto the racetrack.